trust God's devotion. Secondly, we can trust God's plan. We can trust His plan. Verses 5 and 6, now these will sound familiar again. Some of you, this might even be your favorite passage of Scripture here. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, say all. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Now, there's a lot there in these two little verses. A lot. In Proverbs 14:12, I don't have it on the screen, but it's written in your notes on the second to last paragraph on page 1. There is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. So, sometimes, are you ready for this? Sometimes my plan isn't as good as God's plan. How about that? In fact, sometimes my plan is not better. In fact, never is my plan better than God's plan. Okay? But here's the rub, okay? Sometimes we think God's plan is not so good. How many of you have ever been there? It's like, okay, God, I want your will. Ooh, not that. God, is there a plan B? And that's not the way that the Lord operates. Trust starts when we realize that we don't have all the answers. There's another word for that. It's pride, yeah. It's pride. Pride will do a number on your walk with God. Pride will convince you that you know better than God. Pride will convince you that you could do things better than God could. I did an episode of 5 Minutes with Phil today about worry. Spoiler alert. And, really worry. Worry is obsessing over something that you cannot control anyway, but you think you have to try to control because it doesn't look like God is. And it's so, I can really worry. So I'll be a little transparent for you. I could worry about you all. I could worry about my family. I could worry about my church. If I'm not careful, I can kind of go over a real steep hill that way because why? Because I'm not worrying about things that are necessarily sinful. I'm worrying about things that I really care about. Right? Exactly. And so we justify it that way. And so we say it's okay to worry. It's okay to maybe obsess a little bit about God's plan not really lining up with my plan, even though it seems really cloudy because when the rubber meets the road, I tend to worry and really obsess about things. Does this sound familiar? I tend to worry and obsess about things that are really near and dear to me. In fact, the closer they are to my heart, the more the worry. Parents, grandparents, does that make sense? So, when we acknowledge our own lack of resources, that's really when we open up ourselves to God's power and God's wisdom. I get nervous from people when I'm around people that have all the answers. Ooh. I don't always want to be around those people. I've told you before, I love to learn. So if somebody's really knowledgeable, I love that, man. I'll rack someone's brain. Especially if it's something that I really don't know, but it's just like, wow, really? Jonathan's cousin, my nephew, Josh, he's a manager at Chick-fil-A in Missouri. And man, he was talking about the Chick-fil-A world. And I mean, now look at me. I do know something about Chick-fil-A, correct? But to get it from Joshy's perspective, I thought, wow, this is really cool. So I love racking people's brains and learning stuff that I didn't know. But sometimes in the church world, we can run into people who, out of their own security, think they have to have all the answers. And they've convinced themselves that they have all the answers because, God forbid, we actually approach somebody or Jesus himself and saying, I have no idea what to do. King Jehoshaphat, one time, he prayed a prayer in front of all the people when he was about to be attacked by several armies. Want to know what this faith-filled prayer was? God, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. And that might seem like a cop-out. Actually, that is a powerful prayer. God, I don't know what to do. I don't know better than you. Man, when we get that in our mind, that God, I don't know better than you. I trust you more than myself. That is a hurdle that we jump over on this journey that we call maturity in our walk with Jesus Christ. The very bottom of the page, life is hard enough without us making it harder on ourselves. There's a quote here, okay? Because I've heard it. I put it on here. It's going to offend somebody, and I don't mean to, but it just says it. Life is hard, okay? But it's harder if you're stupid. Okay? But it's true. It's true. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, right? And so what happens, sometimes we get in our own way. Could you see a church sign with that? That would be awesome. Probably why I don't have. Anyway, and so sometimes we get in our own way. We get in our own way. We make choices that actually make things worse. And our intentions might be good. So trusting God involves his devotion to us. And secondly, trusting God's plan. Third, right on the same theme here, on the second page, we trust God's commands. We trust God's commands. Now, these next two verses really develops the whole